At least 7,
Alternatives?
It's
We-
5 plus 2 alternates?
usually. I may be wrong myself.
No. It must be more than that, because with Charles and with Jim, we had 6.
I believe so. 5.
Other times that's always been the case?
As far as I know.
All right, so
I don't have it on me. I should know. I've been here the longest. I've been here the longest, too. Okay. Okay. February 6th, 2018, this is the meeting for the Natural Resources Board for the City of Sebastian. May we all rise for this, for the national statue.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of Allegiance, thank you.
United
States
States.
of America, and to the republic for which it May we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Glazer? Here. Mr. Gordian?
Here.
Ms. Mosblick?
Here.
Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
Mr. Stadelman is absent.
And we would need approval of the minutes for December's meeting.
I motion we approve the minutes.
I second.
Announcements. Kins Jones, Environmental Tech. Are you going to speak to us on anything, or was? I think this is our first time that we've met you.
Well, I'm a new environmental technician. I have a degree in environmental management, natural resources from the University of Florida, and I look forward to working with you all. And I'll be speaking with you again when we get to discuss all business.
Okay.
Welcome.
Not sure what Ms. Frazier's, if she'll be talking to us about this situation. She's not here right now. She's going to speak about a meeting that she's having with the DEP in Tallahassee.
yes. Hi, good evening, board members. Are we on the first approval of minutes?
Yes, we're past that.
5B.
We're on section 5B.
Okay. I am sorry for my delay.
That's okay.
I'd like to introduce Kim Jones. She's our new environmental technician. She actually brings with her a wealth of knowledge, not only educational, but also hands-on experience. Her educational background is actually environmental management. So she's already proving herself to be an asset to the city of Sebastian, as I am sure she will be proving herself to be an asset to this board. Eventually, FYI, so that the board knows, she will be the liaison for this board. So I'd like to welcome her and just introduce you to her so you know who she is. And yes.
Will she have an email address? Which would be?
Yes, and I believe she emailed the board, you know, the agenda packets.
Okay, yes.
So you should have her in your email.
All right, thank you. Any word on Ms. Frazier?
Yes, Ms. Frazier is actually out in Tallahassee, meeting with the DEP. She asked me to let the board know that she will give you an update as to how those meetings went. She is being very productive in Tallahassee this week. She will update the board at the next meeting.
Thank you. And we have several open positions. I believe it's 2 alternates.
Yes, in checking with the city clerk, she tells me that there's 3 board positions. I believe it's 1 regular position and 2 alternates. So staff wanted to advise the board so that hopefully you can help us spread the word.
Thank you. Public output or input? Anyone on the floor? How about we take the lady first? Oh, okay.
Good evening.
Hi.
How are you? My name is Missy Weiss. I am the owner and educator for See a Difference Environmental Services based out of Indian River County. But more importantly, I'm here as a resident of Sebastian. In December 2017, our organization conducted a 12-day litter removal challenge. This challenge encouraged residents to visit 12 different beaches in Sebastian and Vero to collect litter. During that time, the mission of the project was to motivate and mobilize the community to make meaningful improvements in their everyday lives that impact the environment positively. What was most interesting and yet alarming was the amount of debris collected during these daily cleanups. For those 12 days, approximately 12 hours, and a few volunteers each day, we collected almost 100 straws, 32 shoes, 85 pieces of plastic cutlery, 399 plastic bottle caps, 2,700 pieces of styrofoam, 68 pounds of plastic, and so much more. What was most noticeable was the amount of plastics collected. One would be ignorant if you haven't noticed the recent media coverage that rightfully highlights the obscene amount of plastics being recovered from our oceans. You may have even heard researchers indicate that we will likely have more plastics in the ocean than fish in 2050. This is mainly due to our world's obsessive dependence on the convenience of plastics, but also attributed to the fact that plastics do not degrade. Rather, they are broken down into microplastics over time and enter our waterways and into the bodies of animals. With that said, one of the locations that was most worrisome with the amount of litter collected, as well as what was collected, was along the Indian River Lagoon in Sebastian, just adjacent to Mulligan's restaurant. The debris collected clearly told the story of the area. Plastic straws, plastic cutlery, plastic bottle caps, and a 5-gallon bucket full of plastic bags were just a few of the items collected in an area less than 200 square feet in just 45 minutes and 2 volunteers. It is because of the data collected that confirms my concern as a citizen of Sebastian, an educator for See a Difference, and an advocate for environmental sustainability, and why I'm here tonight to address the Natural Resources Board. I want to show you a quick video. It's just a survey or a scan over all of the debris that was collected over the 12 days. I collected all of it and kept it in my backyard. I think people were a little iffy of that. Can you see it? Thank you. You can see the plastic caps, the cutlery, the straws in the bottom right, the styrofoam. The entire upper region is all plastics. Balloon, that little pile at the end was glow sticks. It was obscene. See a Difference would like to initiate a recruitment of local students and concerned citizens to form a Sebastian Sustainability Task Force. The task force would help local businesses and restaurants transition to a more eco-friendly approach and develop a plan to integrate sustainable and environmentally friendly practices into their businesses. Some of these practices could include replacing plastic cutlery with reusable silverware or biodegradable options, composting, basic recycling, which I believe was an item that you guys talked about in January, going straw-free, or simply offering straws instead of providing them, limiting waste by purchasing consciously and with environmental ethics. This is not the first of its kind in Florida. In fact, Satellite Beach in Brevard County is currently moving in this direction and is hosting a summit tomorrow night. But it would be the first in Indian River County. I firmly believe that in order for this sustainability effort to be successful in Sebastian, it will take the Natural Resources Board and the City of Sebastian support and encouragement. I ask for your cooperation, your collaboration, your partnership, your encouragement, but mainly a partnership in making Sebastian a sustainable city and consequently a role model to its citizens and for other cities in Florida. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excuse me. Can you spell your name for me, please?
Sure. MISSYWEISS.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Missy,
Yes, ma'am.
what is the summit tomorrow night? When and where?
It is at, I can give you the information after this if you'd like, I can email it to you as well, but it is in Satellite Beach, and I believe it's from 5:30 to 8 o'clock. They're hosting with their board, their sustainability board, which they have, as well as having several guest speakers. So I'm planning on attending, so it'd be lovely if any of you were there too. Any other questions?
It is a big issue, Missy. Thank you for
Yes.
bringing that up. We'll make a note of that. But nonetheless, we do, the city, or we had done it with the Lagoon Preserve people and do island cleanups. What time of the year did you guys clean that shoreline?
So that was December of 2017. It was a play on the 12 days of Christmas. So for 12 days surrounding Christmas, 12 days before till Christmas Day, we conducted those cleanups.
Because Brevard has a Keep Brevard County Beautiful setups, and so does Indian River. And
Yes.
at least 3 to 4 times a year, we do the cleanups, even with the International. A lot of times that what we've seen is that the islands get used quite often. People do camp out even more so in the winter months than they do in the summer. And the trash could be from east winds and it falls into the river, and if it's not cleaned up on a periodic basis, we usually do 3 to 4 times a year, quarterly. And I can imagine what you guys might have did, just that whole span. We have people sometimes going along that whole shoreline and collect quite a bit of.
I think that was what was most shocking. It was such a small area. It was a dreary, cold, gloomy day, just 2 of us. So we did what we could, and it was very telling, obviously, of what we were able to find and collect and recycle appropriately.
You're the See a Difference organization now. You guys are set up to do this type of thing? Is that?
Yes, so it is a organization. C stands for Stewardship, Education, and Action. So it's an environmental organization. At this point, it's just a business. It's looking to move in the nonprofit realm soon. It's new. And at that point, it was a volunteer program. I have the qualifications as well to pursue that.
Well, I think any help the city of Sebastian can get from any organization in this matter is a good, positive step. We spoke about this our last meeting about some of the lack of recycling that's going on, and certainly it's something to look at. Plastic bags is an issue, as we all know. Unfortunately, the state legislature banned cities from banning plastic bags.
Actually,
Right?
no, if
No?
you have a city that's less than, I believe it's 100,000 people, now they have changed it, so you can enact a local city ban on plastic bags. But I think that this is interesting. I know, Gil mentions the fact that we've got cleanups that are happening, and that, cleanup of pollution is one thing, but prevention of pollution, I think, is something that we would all strive for. And I've actually been looking into this since our last meeting. There are lots of cities and communities that are trying to go towards some kind of rating system where you encourage businesses to opt into this program that's not mandatory, but you would have some kind of a certification, and they can reach different levels depending on what they do, eliminating straws or making them optional, changing from plastic silverware to real silverware. Is this something that we could do as a board? That I don't know, if we can partner and actually, bring up the fact that we've got openings. I don't know if Ms. Weiss is able to, join the board. But if this is something that we can collaborate with private citizens to create a task force or something that we can make Sebastian sustainable. Excuse me. And I think it would be great for Indian River County to have a city that is kind of leading by example. We're on the water. We want to make sure that our ecosystem is pristine, or as pristine as possible. So I know that was long, but I don't know if you guys are able to answer that question as to what we can do to create some proactive steps here.
Well, I would think, first things first, for sure, let's try to get the board members that are now necessary to complete the board, and then I don't see, why or I couldn't tell you the logistics behind doing something like that, but definitely if it's something that the board might be interested in, with enough collaboration, if it's something that's ultimately going to benefit the city and, the county, I don't see why not. It would just be a matter of, okay, so let's first, get the board members that are necessary and then take it from there.
Okay. Is that something, if granted those steps?
Yeah, I was going to say, if we decided that this is, we would like to do a plastic straw ban and plastic bag ban, is this something that we present to the city council as this is our recommendation that we do this, and that in order to become a more sustainable city?
Yes, for sure it would be something, that would need approval by city council, and definitely if it comes with your recommendation, even better. So yes, that would be the steps that, some of the primary steps that would have to be taken.
It
Right.
certainly, it has its challenges because of the stores, the food vendors in town, that type of thing. I think what we can also do is perhaps, we'll get your email and then communicate with you at some point if we get some sort of progress, but we can certainly put it on maybe download some of your images and put it on on the Natural Resources Board website.
Well, we should
And then-
also have dates of cleanups too. I mean,
Right.
Certainly, I haven't heard of any cleanups. I haven't been on the board very long, but I've been living in Sebastian for 4 years. So that would be of interest to me personally, as well as obviously from a board point of view.
I would like to say that Missy is going to be participating in the Earth Day celebration, so we have her email on our vendor list.
Okay, excellent.
Welcome to our celebration. Straws are a pet peeve of mine. I never take a straw, and even when I say no, they still put it on the table. They still put it on a dirty plate. They still throw it away. It's just like,
I just did, I don't know if I'm allowed to interject here or not and have a conversation, but an additional challenge that our organization just did was a 12-day single-use plastic elimination challenge, where each day there was a tip to minimize your plastic footprint on the earth. And so, it just provided a little boost of encouragement, and plastics was certainly, plastic straw elimination was number 3. So thank you. You're
thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Actually, I don't know if I can, maybe this is for later. I was just thinking for the Earth Day, so I can talk about it during the Earth Day celebration. Sorry, okay.
Sir?
This is something that we need to, looks like a weapon more than a microphone. I had just a couple of topics, but Missy has just reminded me of a third one, if I can do it. I was at a meeting.
Excuse me, sir, could you give your name?
Oh, sure, sorry. I'm Graham Cox, 1213 George Street in Sebastian. I was at a meeting this afternoon of the Indian River Neighborhood Association Lagoon Committee, and lo and behold, a big chunk of the afternoon was spent discussing this very topic in terms of just plastic. And it's not a matter of looking unsightly, but it is choking wildlife. It's choking the fish, the mammals, whatever in the lake. And we had some pretty dramatic photographs of what is happening when they do autopsies on the poor animals, the fish and all. And so if there's anything that we can figure out as to how to get organized to do the very things that Missy's talking about, I'd love to, go and round up the folks who can contribute to that, because on Thursday and Friday there is a meeting down at Harbour Branch of all the research folks looking at the lagoon. I counted up, I think it's about 60, maybe 70 papers, research papers. Only one of them deals with the whole issue of plastics polluting things. So I think we got to get a little more attention, a lot more attention to that as something that we can actually. It is not like chemicals in the lagoon where you can't see them. This stuff you can see. This stuff we can deal with. The two items I just want to talk about. One is a conference that Audubon had a couple of weekends ago dealing with native plants, transforming landscapes for a sustainable future, and we had 364 people showed up at that. A lot of them from out of this county as well as in this county. As a result of that, I think she's a council lady, or maybe she was the mayor of Vero Beach. This is Laura Moss, has come to the Pelican Island Audubon Society and said, we are willing to discuss updating our ordinances dealing with landscaping. And I don't want Sebastian to get left behind in the race to do that, to convert our turf as much as we can into landscapes that include a lot of, in fact, mainly made up of native plant species. As a result of that, we've also heard from a law school that has looked at all of the landscaping codes and come up with a model ordinance. And in its present form, it is lots and lots of pages. I don't know, I haven't counted, maybe 40, 50 pages of stuff. But it's annotated with all sorts of notes in it. But what I'd like to offer is if we can work with Vero Beach and with Sebastian together to look at the landscape ordinances, the development ordinances, and say, what can we change here that's not going to destroy the landscaping business, but to, I think, improve the landscaping business. Rather than guys going around with lawnmowers and spray guns, they can go around with a little more finesse and start looking at people's lawns, people's yards, I should say, and maybe replace quite a bit of the lawn in front of their houses with something that we can agree is sustainable, doesn't require the amount of water, doesn't generate the amount of phosphorus, nitrogen, and all those things. So you know it, I have a constant battle with my wife, who has a huge garden next to the house lot that we have, but still likes her lawn. So we, every time the stock shows up, we have a major argument over whether we should be doing what we're doing to this piece of lawn. But my offer is that we're going to work with Vero Beach, and what I'd like to do is include Sebastian, if we can, at some point, so that we can look at the landscape ordinances development, the community development ordinances, and make some suggestions as to what we can do to get a more natural-looking landscape than all these acres of green. I know that there's a city councilman whose livelihood, and he and I have gone around on this one, whose livelihood is irrigating lawns, but I think we can bring these ideas to the council in due course and do a better job at it. The second topic I want to raise is one I've raised, and Rose, you know what it is, the whole issue of spraying herbicides along the canals. And that was 2 years ago we raised this. We've been looking at all sorts of alternatives. There are at least 60 approved methods in the state of controlling invasive plants along our waterways. We are stuck with one, and that is monthly spraying of a whole mixture of chemicals, including Roundup, various forms of Roundup. It is not good. There are parts of the county that are doing a better job. There are parts of other counties doing a better job. And again, I want to make sure that we've got the offer on the table to say, let's look at alternatives. Let's look at the cost-benefit analysis of these alternatives that are more practical. They may be more labor-intensive, but at the same time, they're better for our health. Just so you know it, and so you're forewarned, we have made up a whole bunch of signs that say, do not spray. And we've already started going door to door along Concha Street and along other streets that back up, whose houses back up to the canal system. We've got 17 miles of canals and waterways. And we're asking people to put these signs in their backyard along the canal to tell Applied Aquatics, who are doing the spraying, not to spray. If you don't want it sprayed, they will follow the instruction on that sign. I've talked to the guy who was on the airboat, and he says, yeah, we're not going to spray where somebody says don't spray. The big limiting factor is how many of these signs can we make at $8 a sign. It's an outrageous price, but we want to get the word out that if people don't want herbicides, glyphosate sprayed in their backyards on the canal walls, then there's a way that they can do it. And we're going to keep bugging you, and we're going to keep bugging City Council till we get somewhere with this topic. Thank you.
And you had presented that to City Council?
Sorry, Gil?
Did you present that to city council?
Not yet, we're going to take another, we've met with them individually and talked about it, but as a council as a whole, we got to come back and talk to them. They are, frankly, they keep saying, you've raised this topic before, so we don't want to hear from you. As far as I'm concerned, we're going to keep raising it until they say, okay, well, they're going to cry uncle.
The chemical you mentioned that contained the glyphosate, the Roundup, this is, how much of this is dispersed here? How much of this are we using?
Brian, once a month, we don't have a handle on the gallons that they disperse. But once a month, they come along with the airboat and they put it in at the end of Concha, and when we have photographs of the stuff in the truck, and there are 5-gallon containers that they mix this stuff, whether they mix it before, whether they mix it when they get here. And they will go the length of the canal with a hose pipe, and they will go along at a slow speed and they just spray. The argument they make is that they can tell the invasives from the non-invasives, the invasive plant species. I don't think they can. In front of my yard, where we have quite a lot of vegetation growing below the seawall, they've killed stuff that was not an invasive plant. They just, and it's like a hose pipe going on it. They say that they try to use a minimal amount of this stuff. And in the previous councilwoman, Andrea Coy, said that they're using very small amounts of this stuff. Well, we don't know. We don't have a handle on it. They get paid by the amount that they use and the time that they spend. And we think there's a better way we're not saying don't use it, period. We're saying there's a better way to do it. If there are choke points along the canal system, then let's deal with the choke points with mechanical means or hand means. But let's look at the alternatives, because I have a neighbor who's appeared before you guys before, Bob Stephen, who's looking at selling his house. He cannot breathe. When they spray this stuff, he cannot breathe. He has real lung problems to start with, but he is beside himself. Every time they come with the airboat, he calls me and says, "They're here again. Do it. Stop them."
This is once a month they come around?
Yeah, depending on weather conditions, they come along with this stuff.
Has the city council ever proposed had a counter proposal or
They have a contract. Applied Aquatics has a big contract with the water management districts and they're approved by DEP, and the city has what's called a piggyback contract for this spraying. So when I've gone to DEP and I've gone to the water management district and I've gone to Fish and Wildlife and asked them who has authority to regulate they have a contract, and the contract spells out the conditions in which they can do stuff. And when you ask, well, who can enforce the terms of the contract? Who can make them look? Everybody goes like this. They point in different directions and say, it's not us, it's the other guy. I raised this topic once again with the Water Management District at a luncheon last week. And I told them I've been to everybody that I can find in the agencies and talked to them about it. And they have all been very polite and said, yeah, but it's not us. They don't have a permit from us. We don't control the canal system. Is not an official waterway. It's something under the control of the city. So it comes back down to the city has a contract. We can change the contract for them to do something different. They don't have to spray. They don't have to spray as extensively as they are.
I was under the impression that Applied Aquatics was going to look at herbicides that were more user-friendly or environmentally more friendly.
They switched, Gil, from using Roundup Custom to a thing called Aquamast, I think it was, which they claim was not anywhere near as lethal. And Councilwoman Coy kept saying that is not glyphosate. Well, all glyphosate salts that they put in it. So one way or the other, it's all pretty. And they mix it with diquat and about 5 or 6 other chemicals. So you can't say it's pure this, it's pure that. It's a real mixture. It's got chemicals in it that let people to say it's Agent Orange. It's not Agent Orange, but it's just as bad.
I And so, just, sorry, this is my
Go
first
ahead,
time hearing
Nikki.
this. So they're trying to kill the invasives that are growing over the walls into the canal, or they're trying to kill aquatic invasives that are in
They're
the water?
killing aquatic invasives, the high.
Just aquatic
I
invasives?
thought it was both.
But there's a lot of the canal system has got these seawalls along it. But at the bottom of the seawall, as I have, there is a muddy bank that grows vegetation. It's got algae and mud.
Okay, so the water doesn't go all the way, okay,
So it doesn't go up into your yard, it just goes
Mhm.
along the bank.
okay.
Where I'm across from the Stormwater Park on Engler, off Engler, and they spray in a sort of a very haphazard fashion along that. So what it's doing is killing all vegetation, not just the invasive stuff.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
So that results in soil being exposed, which results in soil erosion. All of the dead stuff eventually becomes, when it dies off, and it becomes muck. And if you've probably noticed that the big issue right now is getting muck out of the lagoon. Well, getting muck out of the canal would be a good idea, but you're not going to do that. Getting muck out of the St. Sebastian River, they've spent millions on that topic. So anything that contributes to the muck, which is all this dead vegetation, once you've sprayed it, we're causing more of a problem than we're solving. Bill, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have one topic that I asked to be put on new business, and it's not on here, so if I may go ahead. We have the Pelican Island Wildlife Festival coming up in March.
That's
And
right.
I was wondering if the board wanted to have a booth there again.
The city has moved the date on them, it's March 3rd now instead of their normal date when the anniversary of the wildlife was, first refuge was formed. But it's March 3rd now, and they're having problem with city vendors and the wildlife because it's been the same date
This
for
is-
so
For
many
years.
They're asking for volunteers to help them. Sorry, they're asking for volunteers, so if anybody is willing to volunteer, the contact person is Eileen Fretz, and her number is 772-321-0848, and you can also contact firstrefuge.org.
Have that number again?
It is 772-321-0848. Eileen Fretz. She's in charge of the volunteers, but they need people to volunteer at the festival. They need vendors, they need wildlife, they need people
So
now to
they're
go
starting over
out.
all over again.
They are starting all over. They don't know
Do
what
we
they're
ever
going to
put
do.
links on our page, on our webpage, for this type of activity where volunteers needed for, this?
Not really, not unless it was our own event or a
Okay.
city event. I'm sure I don't see a problem if, would that be a problem?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Requesting volunteers for the Pelican Island Festival.
Maybe via our webpage, have a link to their festival page that says, if you were interested in volunteering for a natural, festival, what's it called again?
For the
Pelican
Pelican
Island
Island
Wildlife
Festival.
Festival.
Click here.
I would
and-
think if it's handled with the Pelican Island event coordinators, it's up to the board, whether they want to
we can-
announce.
I don't see why we shouldn't try to help everybody.
We had a
who's
table
trying to
last
help the
year. We were
environment.
there.
Yeah, we did.
We were there last
Yeah.
year.
It would be, sorry for the interruption, it would be the NRB, requesting volunteers for the Pelican Island Wildlife Festival, not
Right.
necessarily the city, so.
That's the route to take.
Yeah, that's where.
We had a booth there last year, and it was a month prior to our festival, so it was kind of good timing to be out and about.
Are any board members willing to
I can certainly.
contact
attend.
her and,
Oh,
or contact Barbara? She's still doing the website, right? Barbara?
I could follow through on it.
And then if the
I'll
board,
talk to
if we get a
Pelican
full
Island.
board membership, maybe we can participate.
Oh, it's all or nothing?
No, no, no,
No,
no.
no.
The
Okay.
website,
No.
I can talk to the
Oh, for the
Pelican
web-
Island
okay.
For us
Friends.
to
That's
spend a
the
few
least
hours at the
information.
park representing the NRB.
Yeah.
And then if we want to have a booth at the festival, I can go to the website and do the registration like I did last year.
I'm actually going to be in New York that day, but
And you can fly home.
I will be available. I can be there.
I mean, so we can take a vote on it, but we need if we can get the participation of all the members, because I could do a half a day, that type of thing, on that day.
I can possibly take off part of the day and be there for some of it. I believe it runs from 10 to 4, are their hours.
Second.
So would we like to take a vote on
Yes.
participating?
Sure.
All in favor of participating in the Pelican Island Festival?
Aye.
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 I will go ahead and do the registration online with them, and I will follow up with information for the website.
And next is, I guess it would be electing a chairperson or a vice chair for the NRB. Now, do we need a full complement of people, because there's only 4 of us here tonight?
Yes, and that's actually the reason for my delay at the beginning of this meeting. The board consists of 7 members. Being that there are 4 members present, then there is a quorum to be able to vote.
I nominate Rose
I don't want it.
as the chairperson.
I work full-time, and it's just, I don't have 2 days off in a row at this point, and I don't want to take on anything more.
Are there any other nominees?
Thanks, Gil.
I would be willing to do it. Is it, because I'm new, I am not completely familiar with all of the motioning and the seconding, so I'm sure I will have
Neither
help.
am
Robert's Rule of Orders.
That's,
But,
yeah,
I mean, I would be willing to do so.
that's
unless
why I
there's
was
someone
always
else.
chair.
Yeah,
I wasn't used to the protocol.
gotcha.
So if the board can make a vote, if the board agrees as to Ms. Mosplash being the chairperson, there would not be a problem with, you meeting with the city so that we can give you a little bit of
Okay.
background information. The
If
board
we-
would have to vote, and,
That's if
the
everyone's
majority
comfortable.
would have to be in agreement to this.
You have my nomination.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to take
Sure.
over.
I mean, if you want to do it, yeah, I have my vote.
We'll give this a try.
Take a
And
formal
now-
vote.
Now we have to look for a chair.
Well, you should be the chair. I think, I would nominate you, since you're kind of de facto chair anyway, right?
ex officio.
Ex officio.
Okay, I'm sorry for interrupting. So just so that the recording secretary can get this
Right.
right too, Ms. Mosplash is going to be the vice chairperson. Was there a count on the vote?
thought
Was it
chair.
a unanimous?
Oh, was,
She was going for chair.
She's,
oh, chair.
The
Okay, yeah.
chairperson, all right. And
So
it
you would
was,
be vice chair.
and was there a count?
we have a
three of
vote
us,
on-
three- Yes, we all, it was unanimous. Well,
Yes.
the 3 of
There was
us.
unanimous
You can't
vote for
Yeah.
chair.
Aye,
All right,
aye.
thank
For the
you, just for
nominee.
clarification.
and Gil, would you stay as a vice chair for us?
Sure.
Great.
And
So,
vote for that one?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we switch now? No.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, you do.
Actually, it's supposed
All
to.
right, so it was also a unanimous vote for the
Yes.
vice chairperson as
Correct.
Mr. Gordian. All right, thank you.
Thank you both.
Yes, thank you.
Do we go on to
Sorry.
new business?
So we're on to
Okay.
old business, Earth Day. Arbor Day celebration.
Yes.
Rose, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. So with Earth Day, we're less than, 3 months away now. We have 27 vendors signed up so far and just a couple food vendors. And I am doing my 3rd round of individually emailing everyone because it's time to start rounding them up. All the bands are in place. I guess mostly what I need help with at this time is the advertising and activities. Has anybody brought any ideas or?
Have we done anything for Facebook yet, like a page for
Yes.
Facebook? We do have one, okay, we should,
I had the registration on it,
Okay,
and
perfect.
I
have-
put info on it every once in a while.
I need
I
to
do
go.
get people looking at it, and I had people even looking at last year's stuff,
Well, we
so-
should all share it as board members. I think we should all share it with our friends anyway.
Absolutely.
Do we have a flyer for this year? Because I made over 100 copies last year and distributed
Yeah,
that.
I didn't think we gave any out last year,
Oh, I
a couple
did.
years ago.
I did.
No, we do not have a
Do we
flyer
have
yet.
another flyer? So we can work that out and then
Yeah.
just, my question is now, do we do that on our own? I mean, I still have, I think, a flyer at home. I can just photocopy another date on it.
The city, Barbara has the flyer that she normally just updates for us each year.
Perfect.
All right, I'll contact Barbara then and see if she can send me a couple.
What activities do we already have?
We agreed last time that we're going to do the rock painting again. I have plenty of paint. I want to get a vote on buying rocks. 2 bags of rocks is going to cost $40, and I probably need to buy some paintbrushes. So I'm guessing maybe a $55 expense this year for rock painting. We have everything else left over that we can still use.
So we have to vote on this?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so, do we?
Yeah, it
Yeah?
has to be approved so I can get a check from the city.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
If I can, actually, if I can make the interruption, I don't believe that we can have a vote unless the item is on the agenda. So
Okay.
if you'd like, we can add it as an item
For
at the
next
next
month,
meeting
yes.
because, in fact, as the
Okay.
board was voting on the, doing the volunteering for the Pelican Island, I don't think it's an item on the agenda. In fact, I don't even think it requires a vote.
Call for
But-
volunteers and suggestions for activities, supplies, and estimated cost.
Okay,
That's for,
all right.
For Earth Day.
Okay,
For our
okay,
Earth
so
Day.
then yes. So in this case, it is an item on the agenda. We didn't specify that it was an action item. So yes, it is an item on the agenda. I am so sorry for the interruption.
it's okay.
But yes, it is my
Okay.
understanding that it does have to be an item on the agenda for there to be a vote. Go ahead, I am so
Okay.
sorry.
So if I can go ahead and proceed and buy the rocks, so I have them ahead of time, and brushes, I'm looking at probably $55, and I won't go over that.
Sure.
2 bags of rocks in the right size are $20 each, and I have a tax form from the city, so we won't be paying taxes on it. So we have, are we going to do a scavenger hunt again this year?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
That was more Ann's kind of thing, wasn't it?
No. Andrea took it over last year for me, and I did it the year before. But it kind of goes over well, so I think we should do it, even if I have to
I
go to
think
the
the more
park.
things to keep the kids occupied, the better off
Absolutely.
it's going to be received.
And I'm hoping we get the new members involved in it also.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're going to have the chalk art contest. Leslie will be back, and that'll be back on the waterfront. And she does a fantastic job, so we welcome her back this year. So we'll have the chalk art, the gopher tortoise burrow, scavenger hunt, rock painting. Any other
Entertainment.
ideas?
Not offhand, but I'll think of something by March.
Please do, and bring an estimated cost so we can finalize it and get it purchased, so we don't have to wait till the April meeting. Nikki, you have ideas?
And we're still within
I-
budget.
I will try and think of some. The scavenger hunt, I can certainly help out with that day, that morning, whatever is needed. Again, I'm not sure what happened exactly last year, but I'd be willing to help out.
2 years ago, I went through the park and I read the signs and statues, and I kind of did all of my clues from them
What you
having to
saw.
go to items to read and
Okay.
learn a little bit from them.
Okay.
Last year, when Andrea did it, she had them going to vendors and finding information, so that made everybody visit the booths to find the answers.
That's
And
good.
what we normally do, since you're new, we have the kids pick up a piece of paper. The scavenger hunt normally has a page on the bottom of it, so it's all confined in one paper. And as they do different activities, they have stamps that they stamp off on them. They have to do 3 activities, and then they put their ticket, little stub, in a plastic jar, and they get drawn. And the last 2 years, we gave away a bicycle.
Prize, I gotcha.
So-
Okay, all right.
get them active, doing a few instead of just one and going. But last year, we had a real good turnout, and I think we kept the kids in the park for quite a while.
Okay, sounds good.
So if anybody would bring activities or even email me, that would be great. I had one vendor I want to ask about. I don't want to just be the one to say yes or no. I have someone wanting to bring the Lulu Row clothing line, and it's nothing that has anything to do with Earth Day. It's not local, it's not homemade, it's out of the country. I don't want to make the call.
I don't mind
but-
one way or another.
Well, we're trying to keep it environmental friendly, and
I
just doesn't fit.
I hate to shoot down local businesses. I mean, if it's not local, that's another thing too. But I think with the Earth Day theme, it kind of promotes the consumption of more goods, more resources.
Mhm. Okay,
I don't know if you guys would be.
I totally
I agree with that, not a problem.
The question I had for the Earth Day celebration, is there any way that we can encourage vendors to, just speaking about the plastic pollution, and we are going to be right by the river, is there any way we can discourage the use of single-use plastics with the vendors, the food people? I know that that's hard.
I mean, they'll be saving money at the same time, so we just, between the 5 and the 8 vendors that'll be there, we just can ask them not
You
to.
mean the food
not to-
vendors?
What if
Yeah,
we
not to
were- yeah.
distribute
I mean, I'm just,
those type of items.
yeah.
What if we were to provide them with, say, enough biodegradable or, hemp-based, compostable plastic,
Silverware, that type of thing.
When I was on the
Papers,
board of
things.
Pelican Island, we had Affordable Water come in and bring us water tanks, and they sold reusable bottles for a couple dollars, and that you could go back to the water tank and fill up all day long with it. But definitely encourage people to bring their own, and would that be something to look into?
We should be spearheading this type of effort, I
We'd
believe.
be proactive about that type of thing with a city-sponsored event. Yeah, I do think that would.
Even if we took it out of our budget, I mean, how many people are we expecting at the entire Earth Day? So, I mean, what are we looking at? Do we-
Ever
It
had a
depends.
count? We just have a nice, easy flow.
Right, I mean, I don't think it would be, we're not talking about thousands of people,
No,
are
no,
we?
No,
So, I
between
mean,
300 and 500
as
people
the
throughout the
Natural
day.
Resources Board, if we were to present the vendors with kits of biodegradable utensils, I think that might be a good example, us taking, putting our first foot forward type of thing.
I would hope it would be
And
well
then
received. I mean,
keeping in mind what's in the
It
budget,
would be the
yeah.
event for this to happen. I mean, it's an Earth Day celebration, so, or Arbor Day too.
Excuse me, as a point of clarification, did we have a vote on the cost for the rocks?
Rocks, did we have a vote
We have
on
to
the
vote
cost? $55, did we vote on
Is
it?
what I'm asking for, yes.
Can I motion to approve? Do we have
Yeah,
do I have to do that?
aye.
Motion to
Aye.
approve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe Charles was going to help me with advertising. I'll have to get with him. So I wanted to go over the rocks, the brushes, the clothing line, and I will continue to keep working on vendors. This year, we do have a handful of new vendors we haven't had before, so it'll freshen up, and we have a lot of our other people coming back, so we'll
I'll communicate with Barbara on the flyers.
So are we ready to move to item B then? Yes. So the role of the Natural Resources Board and the Oyster Bag Project? Is that,
Yes, we're actually going to turn it over to Kim Jones, who's going to make a PowerPoint presentation.
All right, I want to begin by addressing the board tonight about our oyster promulgation project. Because this project is a cost share grant with the Indian River Lagoon Council, there's a project plan and timeline already established. Here's what we have at this point. The project site has been assessed and surveyed. The project plan has been designed in detail and approved by the Lagoon Council. All permitting through the St. John's and Army Corps is complete, and we have permission to cure the shells at a site on the airport property. The completion date has been extended and will require further extension to accommodate the shoreline protection project that will occur this year. Now, on the challenges that we're facing so far, in order to comply with that May 31st completion date, we need to collect 16,000 shells by the end of next week because they have to cure a minimum of 3 months before installation. We also need volunteers and materials to sew 80 biodegradable oyster bags. Unfortunately, as you see on the picture there, that our site is no longer suitable. The area is dominated by a sandbar now, and its proximity to that shoreline protection project is going to cause further installation delays. So what does this mean for us? Well, failure to meet the project deadline will result in a loss of that $25,000 cost share grant money. And also, the city of Sebastian has already paid the cost of permitting and the engineering services to get to this point. And non-compliance could potentially hurt our chances of being awarded similar grants in the future. The city will still have its cost share amount that they set aside for a similar project, but it'll be difficult to find a feasible project in that price range. So this is what I walked into in this position, is this timeline and where it's at. So what I did is start researching some alternatives. So one proposal that has been researched and supported by the staff is to alter our project to incorporate the Taylor floats. These are floating installations which can be purchased or easily constructed from PVC pipe and wire mesh. They measure 3 by 5 feet and 1 foot deep, and they tie to the existing pier. After 1 year, the oysters are planted on restoration sites, and the pre-made costs average about $50 to $75 each. Some of the benefits of the Taylor floats are that they serve as an interactive exhibit with educational opportunities. The results are easily quantifiable, and rather than shells, we can use juvenile live oysters, and it also offers convenient sampling at any tide while staying dry on the dock. And it's more resistant to wave action. Also, the Army Corps of Engineers does not require a new survey be done because it's in the same area and it's off of the existing dock. And the float remains where the oysters have constant exposure to oxygen and phytoplankton, and they're removed from benthic predators. So the installation of live oysters also means that it immediately begins filtering instead of waiting for those oysters to grow. The con side of using a Taylor float is that it's heavy, and it gets heavier over time, so requires pulleys be installed, a simple pulley system, so that we can remove it and replace it. Also, the floats need to be removed every 2 weeks from the water to desiccate algae and other parasites. And a Fish and Wildlife Commission special activities license is required, and that's only $25 and is good for a year. It just says that we're using this for restoration, not for aquaculture or harvest. However, being on a public pier, the floats can also be pulled up to the surface and damaged. And they also must be removed before a major storm event. This concept is not new. It has proven successful for years locally. Living Docks program at FIT, where participants hang mesh bags filled with used oyster shells from the sides of a dock or seawall and submerged in the water. A single dock with 37 pilings can average 32 oysters per piling and effectively filter about 21 million gallons of water per year. And the Brevard Zoo, their oyster gardening project, sets up citizens with baskets filled with larvae or spat. They groom and maintain the baskets until eventually the oysters are collected and used in restoration projects. Oyster gardening in the Chesapeake Bay has been widely used for about 10 years now, and it's grown to include thousands of citizen gardeners throughout the entire bay. And using the Taylor floats, wild oyster populations are growing in number there. And some data here at the bottom is the data from the MRC that shows the marked increase in the quantities of native wild oysters. since the oyster gardening project began. And at the top there, you'll see the research from the University of Delaware comparing the Taylor float to bottom tray installations. And the Taylor float yields significantly higher average percent growth. So implementation, should we decide to go with the Taylor float option, we begin by applying for modifications to the permitting and grant agreements. We need to decide the most suitable area and purchase native live juvenile oysters from a local aquaculturist, which we've already got prices on. And we will need to decide the most suitable area, I got that, and purchase floats and tie them to the pier at Fisherman's Landing with pulleys installed for easy removal. And we also will incorporate educational signage and prepare a schedule for monthly data collection. So where we're at, we're faced with a choice to make. Do we A, plan for the changes we need? We will need to go forward with our project plan as written, or do we B, file for modifications to alter the project for a Taylor float installation, or C, completely forfeit the cost share grant altogether?
What about the Florida State program where they hung the bags off the pier? That's not an option for
The
this?
FIT?
FIT, yeah.
We can do the bags. The problem with the bags is that, like wave action, which that's a busy dock, it's a working dock. The wave action makes the ropes tie the bags around the dock and then ends up staying above the water level even during high tide.
Right.
So you need something that will rise and fall with the waves.
Okay.
Who would be responsible for pulling them out of the water every 2 weeks and cleaning them?
Like I said, we work a schedule and volunteers. It's a great educational opportunity.
Sure.
Have
There
a
are a lot
school
of.
group come in.
I could see it being a great opportunity for, you know, a class of second graders, and to show them and we can look at the different organisms that live there, and then we could count the oysters, and it's something that is easy to participate in because you don't have to be in the water.
How long would, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
How long would modification on the project take to get re-permitted?
Well, I've already made the calls to see if it's possible, so I've already set the groundwork for it, and I've consulted with people at the Brevard Zoo, and they've given me some advice on a direction to go, and so I would be responsible for doing that, but I don't think it'll take very long. And again, we're not looking, if we go this direction, we're not looking at that 3-month threshold, so meeting that timeline for the project will be feasible again.
And this would be your recommendation to us, yeah?
Yeah.
How many Taylor floats would be installed? Have you
That's
looked
something we have to decide by cost and by the pulley system. So as we design that part of the project, after we get all the permitting and everything in order, we'll have to decide that.
Would you need one pulley per float, or just a pulley and you'd kind of rotate them through?
There's a lot of different systems. Some of them use like 6 floats and, you know, pull it in and then, you know, pull one up at a time. I would say I've seen very simple systems, and I would say just to do one each so that you can pull them all out at once to desiccate instead of having the schedule where you can only pull one up at a time.
Especially if you're having volunteers or, you know, you're limited on your manpower as far as this is concerned. You want to be able to reduce the amount of maintenance time.
Either option still requires regular maintenance and monitoring, just in a different way. And this way, I could do it, any of us could do it, we could do it when we had time, because we wouldn't have to get in the water and
Right.
deal with it being cold or hot or rainy or.
So plans for the site is still at Fisherman's Landing?
Exactly, so it fits with that educational historic preservation theme that's already at that property.
It was my understanding there was going to be some kind of a, like an education center associated with that facility. Do you know if that's something that we
There,
could?
have you been to the inside Krabby Bill's when you go, there's like
They have like a little museum.
Yeah,
I wasn't
that's,
sure, they were building new buildings. I wasn't sure if they were going to have other educational, like a touch tank or that type of thing.
the facility being built right now is the restroom.
Oh, that's just, okay, all right, I didn't,
That's phase 2.
okay.
Touch tank.
Yeah, not a bathroom, touch tank.
Problem with that is someone has to man it. That's,
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be an information kiosk, but it's basically inside of Krabby Bill's.
I think for the sake of preserving the grant and doing
Yes.
something positive for the community,
I think we should need to go with your recommendation, the
look into
Taylor.
these and see how feasible they are in terms of
Taylor
money and time,
floats.
yeah.
'Cause these are manual pulleys, I believe, right? They're not, yeah, they're not, it's not mechanical in the sense of electricity. Okay.
But as far as the every 2 weeks, it only needs to be pulled up from the water. You don't have to pull it all the way up and out until you're monitoring, but.
Would the long-term plan for that, once, let's say they get to a certain size, an inch and a half round or whatever, those will be transported to another location?
That's the great part where we can, the juveniles would be received from aquaculturists, and they're grown in the same lagoon, only about a block down. And then, so you know that they are gonna do well in that area. And in a year, it's usually the threshold of time on these. In a year, the oysters are taken. We can do it as a rehabilitation project where you lay the shells. Then we have a year to get the shells and lay the shells down, and you put the live oysters on top. That could be a great idea, but if it's not in our books, we can still donate them to the Brevard Zoo for use in the same way,
Same purpose.
as part of their oyster gardening project.
Gotcha.
Now, are we looking long-term or looking to start this actually by May?
Oh, it has to,
Has
that's
to be,
May
right.
is our
That's
is our
That's the
date.
whole thing.
And
right?
that is that's
Okay.
the season that they spawn, and that's our highest activity season, so we want to get it in by then,
So we need to vote on this.
right?
I'd move to modify so that we can move along with the Taylor floats.
Second.
I'll third it.
I agree.
So we do have a vote on it.
Great,
That-
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. I think you'll have to let us know so we can participate in seeing this and also working it, yeah. From scratch.
Okay, so item B2, we've got the guest speaker schedule.
Yes, staff would like to know if the board has invited any guests to speak, so that if that's the case, if they can provide staff with, the details, so that we can include these in the upcoming agendas.
Well, we have the.
I'll let you know by March, yeah.
We have the one lady from the Indian River
Oh, the solid waste.
County
Solid waste
recycling.
division?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Stephanie.
Stephanie, yes.
I can actually, I've
Is
been in
there a
touch with her.
date for her?
No, I can touch base with her as
Right.
well.
I think
work
she was
with her for the
planning
schools.
on like March or, well, we were going to have a
Oh.
meeting in January, right? So she was going to go February, but now since we're already February, I think we should,
Back to March.
yeah.
Okay. So I would contact her and have her contact, would it be you, Kim, who she would be in touch with and for the next meeting, with materials or that kind of thing? Okay. I had been in touch with a woman through the Surfrider organization.
Oh, great.
They actually have, so just thinking about this idea of kind of sustainable businesses and reducing plastic use, they have something set up, it's called Ocean Friendly Restaurants. I don't know if it's something we could fully incorporate through the city of Sebastian, but maybe it could serve as a model for something we might want to do here. Just thinking about kind of the plastic reduction idea. And I can see maybe she might be able to come visit in April, if that would be okay.
That'd be great.
Okay.
No, I don't. Not right now. I do for speakers, but I'll have to communicate with these folks, and it would be for May and June.
Do we need to vote on the guest speaker schedule? Okay. Then moving to member matters. Any? For
Nope.
member matters?
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I would like to also say, I went to the same seminar that Graham went to, the Transforming Landscape for Sustainable Future, and what an awesome seminar it was. I came away just wowed with it. On Friday night, Dr. Douglas Tallamy from the University of Delaware was a keynote speaker, and I always knew the importance of planting native and not having to water and fertilize and all of that, but he just took it so much further than that. Oak trees, for instance, there's over 400 different species of caterpillars on them versus a ginkgo or Asian tree that might have 1 to 3 species, but he says none. And it just went through the food chain. It showed the baby birds, the fledglings, how many caterpillars they eat a day. So the cycle in the yard was just tremendous. Talked about goldenrods and, oh, shame on me, what's the monarch?
Butterfly.
Milkweed.
Milkweed, yeah.
Just totally lost it. But how years ago when you drove along fields up north, how all of the ditches would have all these blooming flowers, and we've all been taught that they're weeds and they're not flowers, so they sprayed them all. And now when the birds are migrating, they can't stop and feed anywhere, so we're losing populations of birds because they're dying, and they're trying to get people to plant the wild flowers again. It was just such an interesting conference. And on Saturday morning, Dr. Edie Witter from Harbor Branch opened up, and one of the interesting things she was talking about were rain gardens. And you dig a ditch and you put gravel in the bottom with just soft soil. And if everybody would do some sort of this along their property line, she said if we could just catch the first inch of rainfall in our own yard before going into the ditch and into the lagoon, what a difference we could make with doing something like that. So I plan on using some of the brochures for our celebration. But just so informative information. She, of course, talked about the Kilroys that she has out on the water that can be looked at 24 hours a day. And she says it takes 20 minutes to install one, but it takes 3 months to get a permit to install one. And she gave some of the information from them, like not to pick on the Moorings Club, but how red it is with nitrogen down there. And it's not the sewers, because they have a sewer system. Their golf course is Audubon approved, so they do everything right. All it is the runoff from the landscaping on the people's houses. So being embarrassed by it, they are doing an action plan now, and they're going to try to do something better. She's doing one of these trenches in her backyard. She just went on and beyond. We could never do. I mean, I'm thinking she probably spent thousands of dollars. But before her stuff goes into the lagoon, because she has a retaining wall too, she has to where she lives, she's putting in all kinds of native plants there in her rain garden, so it's all absorbed before going, and she's testing her water constantly to see the difference that it's making. So just the ideas and things that came out of the conference were excellent. And the brochures that we had printed up to help them, they are in all of our packets, so that was nice to see. The Pelican Island Audubon Society filmed the entire thing. They don't know what they're going to do with it, but if you ever get a chance to see it, the whole conference just blew me away.
That note, I don't know if there's anything we can do with Mr. Cox bringing up the idea of, and it kind of goes together, the native landscaping. Can we make recommendations as a Natural Resources Board? Are we able to meet with counterparts from Vero Beach, with the Indian River Neighborhood Association? You mentioned, Mr. Cox? Yeah, sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Getting over back surgery, and when I sit for a while, it goes, ugh. What we have, this is Pelican Island Audubon Society. I'm putting on my Pelican Island hat as opposed to my 1213 George Street hat. We have a model ordinance that was pulled together by a law school, which I say is an annotated thing, so we can't just pick it up and say, yeah, we can. But what we'd like to do at Pelican Island Audubon and with the city of Vero Beach is go through the existing rules as they pertain to landscaping and look at this ordinance and see whether or not we can put language from this into the Vero Beach one. We'd like to do the same, as I said, for Sebastian, if you're willing to. It's going to take a little while to go through it, but if you're willing, we'll work with you to figure out how to do that. I'm not quite sure what the mechanism is. You're stuck with the sunshine laws, so you can't get together. So we can, if you want to designate one of your Natural Resource Board members, maybe we can work directly with that person, and then bring that to the full group to do that.
Would that be possible?
Staff can certainly add that item to the agenda at the next meeting.
That one of us could be assigned to kind of vote and be, serve in that capacity? Okay.
I can happily work with Margarita and Kim and figure out what's the best way to proceed. I'm not sure how quickly we can move. I'm not sure whether we can do it in a month or what we do, but we'll figure it out.
And these practices, because I noticed when I was on our website, the Natural Resources Board, we use the Florida Sustainability or Operating Ordinance, I think it's called. And this is a grade above this, because obviously that allows the use of glyphosate apparently when it comes to our water, aquatic species anyway. So this is going to be a even more stringent type of.
It's going to, I think, rather than focus on the herbicide business, it's going to look at what kind of plants are suitable. You can get it essentially by zip code, what plants are suitable for Sebastian and for Vero Beach. And you can write the ordinance. I haven't got down to look at this yet, so right. I'm talking sort of up here.
Sure.
You can write the ordinance in such a way that it will encourage Florida native species and discourage acres and acres and acres of turf. And as I say, that's going to upset some landscaping guys until they get used to the idea that they can do this. But we can list the plants. There's already, when you go to the extension folks and look at the Florida friendly stuff, which is not the same as the native plant thing, because that Florida friendly includes plants from elsewhere that will thrive and survive here. The native plant business, but you've got a number of folks, including the Native Plant Society right here, can help on this whole thing. But to rewrite the ordinance in such a way that it encourages native plants and discourages turf, that's the point of the whole thing. And we can work with the staff and with everybody to figure out what kind of language is appropriate. And then in due course, I'm guessing you bring it to the council and say, we want to suggest changes to the ordinance for the way things. Just on Rose's thing, the latest issue of the Peligram, which is Pelican Island Audubon's newsletter, you can go online and download it, or you can get it on. But we've done a page summary of that whole of the conference that we did, and it lists each of the speakers and what their main point is. One of them being Edie Withers, being really concerned that we're now dealing with, and I'll quote from this. We're shifting to an algae-dominated ecosystem in the lagoon. The hypertoxins in the system are strongly associated with human diseases such as Parkinson's, dementia, and Alzheimer's. So what we're doing is putting chemicals of all varieties into the waterways, into the lagoon, and who knows how that's going to. When you look at the diseases that the dolphins have, the diseases that the manatees have, they got the same basic body system that we do, and they got terrible, terrible lesions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's sad.
Can I move to put that on the agenda for next month?
Yes, staff will definitely
Okay.
include that item
Thank you.
in the agenda.
Thank you. Any other member matters? So I guess items for next agenda, we put that on there. Any other items to be added? Do we need to put
Another report on Earth Day.
Earth Day
Yeah.
on
Earth
this?
Day
Just in case
update.
we need to approve anything?
Earth Day update.
Yes. and
Including-
approval on any expenses that are needed for activities.
Thank you. Ready to adjourn? What do I do? We are adjourned?
Play judge.
Nicely done, Chairman.
All right.
Chairwoman, excuse me.
Congratulations.
Chairperson.